Welcome to Movie Recall. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2014 action sci-fi film Parasite Part 1. It's time to recall. Let's get started. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie begins with mysterious aliens called the Parasytes starting their invasion of humans. They infect humans by entering their brains. One such parasite enters the brain of a middle-aged man sleeping next to his wife, while another such parasite tries to enter the brain of a high school student named Shinichi Izumi. However, the alien fails to bypass Shinichi's earphones and hence resorts to infecting his right hand instead. Startled, Shinichi screams and tries to get it out. Upon hearing him screaming, Shinichi's mother, Nobuku, rushes to check up on her son. She checks his hand but doesn't find anything wrong. She calls it his imagination and tells him to go back to sleep. By the next morning, the alien in the man's body eats his brain and takes over his human consciousness. It then decapitates the man's wife and feeds on it. Meanwhile, Shinichi surprisingly retains his human consciousness, possibly due to the means of entry of the alien that entered his body. The alien seems to have taken over Shinichi's right hand and makes him do things beyond his control, like randomly grabbing Shinichi's girlfriend Satomi Murano, extending the length of Shinichi's right hand to grab things, and throwing a ball into the basket from a distance without even looking. Shinichi got a way better deal than the guy who killed his wife. Puzzled and worried, Shinichi confronts his right hand with a box cutter knife, forcing the alien to reveal itself. It turns out the alien can shapeshift. It transforms his right hand into a snake, frightening poor Shinichi. However, unlike the other aliens who are ruthless killers, the alien that has taken over Shinichi's hand is more friendly. It reveals that it was supposed to feed on Shinichi's brain but failed to do so because of his earphones. Now it has permanently become a part of Shinichi's right hand and will live as long as the boy lives. With no other choice, Shinichi befriends the parasite and names him Migi. As Migi learns about the Japanese language, sword fighting, human anatomy, archery, the other alien goes on a killing rampage. While returning from school, Migi senses the presence of other brain-eating aliens and drags Shinichi to a nearby restaurant. They find the main door closed, so they sneak into the restaurant through the back door. To their horror, Migi and Shinichi witness the brain-eating alien feeding on a human. The alien senses Migi's presence and happily welcomes it. However, the alien soon realizes that Migi hasn't killed the human host. The alien then starts walking towards the boy with lust in his eyes for his brain. Migi warns the alien to back off, knowing that if Shinichi dies, Migi will die with him. However, the alien reveals that although two alien brains can't reside in one human head, Migi can reside in the alien host's hand. The alien then amputates its host's hand and asks Migi to move over so the alien could feed on Shinichi's brain. However, Migi declines and the two aliens fight each other. Migi makes use of the sword fighting lessons and decapitates the alien host's body, consequently killing the alien. Relieved, Shinichi thanks Migi for saving his life. However, Migi tells him that it killed the alien only because the alien's transferring proposal was risky, so preferred living in his hand. It is revealed that Migi is able to survive in its host's hand because of the nutrients it is getting from Shinichi's diet. Migi tells him that it will protect him from everything as long as it gets nutrients from him. Meanwhile, Detective Hirama starts investigating the murders. He suspects that a cannibalistic killer is on the loose. The next day in school, Shinichi's principal introduces a new teacher named Ryoko Tamiya. To Shinichi's dismay, Migi reveals that his new teacher has been taken over by an alien. They later confront Tamiya. Tamiya assures them that she means no harm and invites them to talk after school. They later meet at an aquatic zoo, where Tamiya introduces them to two other aliens, Shimada Hideo, a high school student, and Mr. A police officer. The aliens ask Tamiya why she brought them to meet a human. Tamiya, who seems more reasonable compared to other aliens, revealed her interest in studying the human's way of life. She even had sex with Mr. A for her research. She reveals she is now pregnant with a normal human baby. Tamiya feels they all need each other to survive and find the purpose of their life. She is also concerned about the killings being highly reported in the media and is looking for ways to feed on humans without creating a media spectacle. She asks Migi and Shinichi to cooperate with them. When Shinichi and Migi decline her offer, Tamiya warns them of dire consequences if they try to get in their way. She reminds them that Satomi and the entire school is at her mercy. Back at home, seeing Shinichi so distant of late, his mother asks him if he's okay. She nudges him to open up, but Shinichi only gets irritated and tells her that he is not a child anymore and doesn't have to tell his mother everything. The next day, while returning from school, Migi and Shinichi run into Mr. A. Migi senses the alien's intention to kill and asks Shinichi to avoid him. Shinichi heeds his advice and runs away, but Mr. A follows him into a secluded alley. With no other choice, Migi decides to finally confront him and order him to back off. Mr. A warns them that he is not like Tamiya. He reveals that he heard about the parasite that Migi murdered in a restaurant. He calls Migi a dangerous parasite who must be dealt with. An intense battle follows. As Migi and Mr. A fight, Shinichi slowly moves closer to the alien, hiding a metal pipe in his left hand. When he gets close enough, Migi gives him a green light and Shinichi impales Mr. A with the pipe. As Mr. A collapses on the ground, a frightened Shinichi runs away. Shinichi is shaken after killing a man, but Migi, amused by nature, reminds him that the alien had already killed the human when it took over the host's body. Meanwhile, while returning home from the market, Shinichi's mother notices the helpless Mr. A in the alley. She nervously inquires if he's okay from a distance. Back at home, Migi suspects that an alien is approaching their home. Frightened, Shinichi rushes to the kitchen and grabs a knife. The door opens, and it's revealed to be Shinichi's mother, Nobuku. Migi warns him that Mr. A has taken over his mother's body, but Shinichi refuses to believe it. Mr. A has separated from his old body and moved into Shinichi's mother's body. However, the mere suggestion upsets Shinichi, and he threatens to kill Migi if he doesn't stop talking nonsense. However, Shinichi's worst fear comes true, and Mr. A speaks through Shinichi's mother, confirming Migi's claims. Shinichi breaks into tears and goes into denial. He apologizes to his mother for hiding the truth from her and pleads with her to stop joking with him. Disregarding his emotions, Mr. A then pierces Shinichi's heart and mortally injures him. Migi screams in disbelief as Shinichi collapses on the ground. Mr. A tells Migi that it is over for both Migi and Shinichi. As Mr. A leaves, Migi enters Shinichi's body through the hole that Mr. A left on his back. 2 days later, and Shinichi lays motionless in his home. He eventually gains consciousness and gets up. Migi reveals that it used a piece of itself to cover the hole in Shinichi's body and left a part of itself in his heart that had been destroyed. Migi then returned back to Shinichi's right hand. It was an experiment, but fortunately, it worked. However, Shinichi is not so excited about being alive after losing his mother. He tells Migi that it should have let him die and breaks into tears. After collecting himself, Shinichi heads to his school to confront Tamiya. He asks her about Mr. A, but she refuses to disclose his whereabouts. Angered, Shinichi shoots a knife at her, but she effortlessly blocks his attack and leaves. Meanwhile, Detective Harama finds Shinichi's fingerprints on the iron pipe and restaurant. Still grieving, Shinichi wanders around the city and comes across a political rally. Migi determines that the politician, named Takeshi Hirakawa, addressing the crowd had been taken over by an alien. It speculates that aliens want to create a place where they can eat humans. Later, Detective Hirama drops by Shinichi's home. He asks him about the policeman's murder, but Shinichi denies having any knowledge. The next day, Satomi introduces Shinichi to Shimada, one of the members of Tamiya's network. Satomi reveals Shimada has just transferred to their school. She forces Shinichi to shake hands with the alien. The alien tries to squeeze Shinichi's left hand, but to his astonishment, Shinichi squeezes the alien's hand with equal force. Migi speculates that the cell it used to repair Shinichi's heart might still be alive inside him and is changing Shinichi's body to become stronger like the alien bodies. It is also having perceptible effects on Shinichi's personality, as once shy and docile, Shinichi keeps insisting on finding and challenging Mr. A. Migi tells him that he can't always be there to protect him because he must sleep for 4 hours each day, and unlike humans, Migi can't choose when to sleep and also can't be woken up during these hours. After a lengthy investigation, the police determines that the parasites are responsible for the series of killings in the city. They learn that the parasites can be identified by their hair. When one pulls out their hair strands react by curling. The next day, the principal learns about Tamiya's pregnancy and forces her to take maternity leave. Migi and Shinichi are excited by the news, but she reminds them that Shimada will continue to keep an eye on them. She reveals that Shimada is going to perfectly fit in the school environment because just like her, Shimada does not consume human meat. Meanwhile, Shimada is in the art room volunteering to be the art model for Satomi and her friends. While guiding Shimada to the right pose, Satomi's friend pulls out his hair. To her horror, the hair starts curling. The girl and her friends realize that Shimada is a parasite and start panicking. She tries to run away, but Shimada drags her back in. He then proceeds towards the girls, but Satomi hurls a bottle of paint remover into the alien's mouth. The chemical disfigures the alien and makes him go out of control. Satomi encourages the girls to run, but Shimada stops them and starts executing the girls. Migi senses Shimada's killing intent and rushes to the art room. To his horror, he comes across a trail of dead bodies of his classmates, causing him to have a panic attack. Migi helps him calm down, and then they continue looking for Shimada. They eventually spot the alien proceeding to kill Satomi. Shinichi saves her and confronts Shimada, but suddenly Tamiya appears from behind. Upset with Shimada for causing this mess, Tamiya scolds him and throws a bomb towards him. With the bomb seconds away from exploding, Shinichi quickly grabs an injured Satomi and jumps out of the building. After the explosion, the police arrive and confront the alien who has survived the blast. Shinichi sends Satomi to a hospital in an ambulance before returning to finish Shimada. Shinichi shoots a metal rod from another building and kills the alien for good. Tamiya then appears and tells Migi and Shinichi that she is going to disappear for a while until she has her baby. Before departing, she hands Shinichi the location of the Professor A-possessed Nobuku. Shinichi finds Mr. A at the address and secretly follows him into a bridge. However, Migi suddenly tells him that they must return as Migi is feeling sleepy. Shinichi can't believe his bad luck. Migi gives him his good wishes and transforms into a sword before falling asleep. Mr. A finally notices Shinichi and is stunned to learn that he's still alive. The alien then launches an attack but is even more surprised by Shinichi's speed. While dodging Mr. A's attacks, Shinichi starts moving closer and closer to the alien. Mr. A plays a trick on Shinichi using his mother's voice. It then proceeds to kill a distracted Shinichi, but Nobuku overcomes the parasite's consciousness and blocks its attack. Shinichi uses the opportunity to kill Nobuku, killing Mr. A with her. Over the course of the next few days, Hirakawa wins the mayor's election and promises to deliver on his promises. Meanwhile, Detective Hirama is approached by a Special Assault Team or SAT officer named Yamagishi, who makes him sign a letter of confidentiality for a project called Human Life Protection. Tamiya and Hirakawa are seen talking to a mysterious parasite named Goto, who reveals that when he took over its human host's body, it was instructed to finish mankind. The movie then ends with Shinichi's visit to Satomi at the hospital, where an unknown individual records him talking with Migi. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and click the bell to get new movie recaps.